Hi everyone, my name is Tara and we are going to go through our first video today about movements after mastectomies. The first thing I want to talk to you about is breathing. After a mastectomy, typically we feel very tight in the front and that can limit how we breathe and the kinds of breaths that we take. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just find a place where you can sit comfortably. If you're in a chair where your feet can be flat on the ground, that's great. If not, if you prefer to sit crisscross applesauce, you can, as long as you can sit up in a nice, tall, upright position. If you find yourself kind of slouching back this way, definitely put your feet back on the ground. If you have a band, that's a really helpful prop to kind of feel the movement that we're talking about here. If you don't, it's not needed. If you do have a band, what I want you to do is take it and just kind of very gently cross it around your front. If you imagine where the bottom band of like your bra would be, that's where I want this yellow band to be. And you're going to cross it and just hold it gently in both of your hands. And then we're going to practice taking really nice deep breaths in. When you breathe in, your diaphragm and your pelvic floor both drop down. This allows air to fill into your lungs. So you should feel an expansion not only in your stomach area, but also around your rib cage. This is what we call like a 360 breath. So imagine again, if you don't have a band, imagine like the band that your bra would create, and I want you to try to increase the circumference of that whole band when you take a breath in. Allow the air to go into your belly too, and then as you exhale, imagine just taking that rib cage that's expanded and kind of gently knitting it back together. Okay, so we're going to try a few breaths just like that. So as you can see, the band the circumference of the band increases as I breathe in, and then it gets smaller as I exhale. And again, I'm not putting a ton of pressure here, just enough to give me like a tactile sensation and a little bit of feedback that that air is going all the way around my body into the sides and the back of my rib cage. So that is how I'd like you to warm up. Just try a few more of those breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Good. Okay, so we're going to take that band and place it to the side and just lay down now. Again, I want you to find a comfortable place where you can lay down. I've got my feet flat on my mat here. My knees are bent up and my hands are just going to kind of rest here on my abdomen. And we're going to start with what we call pelvic rocking. So our pelvis, we can kind of best feel what our pelvis does by finding these two bony areas on the outside here. And what I'm going to try to do now is take my pelvis and I'm going to rock it. First, I'm going to go anteriorly, or these bones here are going to kind of roll away from my rib cage. All right, that's an anterior tilt of our pelvis. When we do that, we're stretching out this whole abdominal area. So it may feel slightly uncomfortable when you move in this direction. I don't want you to push past discomfort into pain. I want this movement to be gentle and slow and small to start. We're going to go from this position, then we're going to rock posteriorly, which means our hip bones are going to come towards our rib cage and our back is going to flatten out, and we're going to kind of shorten this distance here in the front. All right, and this probably feels more comfortable, and this may be kind of how you've been living since your surgery. So this is our rock back, or our posterior tilt, and then again I'm going to rock forward or tilt anteriorly and try to lengthen through this abdominal and kind of chest area here. Again, going just into the point of like maybe a slight discomfort, maybe a little stretch, but definitely not pain. And as I move through this, my goal is that with each repetition, I can just kind of slowly increase the range that I'm working into. We never want to take tissue that's been tight and kind of cold and hasn't moved in a while and really try to stretch it beyond its limitations. We want to gently bring blood flow to the area and allow that tissue to warm up, and then just slowly try to increase the range of that tissue. So again, with each repetition here, I'm just going a little further and a little further, never pushing into a point of pain at all. And then we're going to try to find that kind of neutral pelvis position where I don't feel like I'm really arched, but I'm also not really flat in my back here. I've got that nice kind of neutral position of my lower back. Our backs are curved, naturally our lower backs are curved. So there should be space for me to get like a little hand underneath the lower part of my spine here, not up by my rib cage, but underneath like the lower part of my low back here. And now from here, we're going to take this into what we call pelvic clocks. So imagine if there was just a analog clock sitting right here on your pelvis. When I rock forward or anteriorly, that's my 12 o'clock. When I rock backwards or posteriorly, that's my 6 o'clock. Now I'm going to incorporate a little bit of movement to my right and my left as I go through that range, trying to imagine hitting every single number on the clock. So right now I'm rolling in a clockwise direction. I'm over here at 9 o'clock, now 10, now 11, now 12, and then coming around towards 6 o'clock. My knees are coming with me a little bit, and that's fine. You don't need to try to hold your whole body still because my legs are attached to my pelvis and my pelvis is moving. So we're going to do a few more this direction, and then we're going to switch that direction. So here I am at 12 o'clock again. Now I'm going to start going counterclockwise. I'm going to go 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, now 6, and then back around to 12 o'clock. And I'm just going to do a few in this direction now. If there are any areas that feel catching or uncomfortable through this range, again, just slowly work through it. We're bringing blood flow to the area. We're also bringing joint fluid to the area, which is going to help lubricate that spine. So the more circles you do, the easier this should feel and the more comfortable. If you do these and it's becoming more painful, then definitely shorten up your range a little bit, or maybe don't try this exercise today. All right, we're going to go back. I finished up my last clock. I'm going to find that neutral spine position again, okay? Where I'm not real flat, I'm not real extended through my low back. If I were to put my hands here and find my hip bones and my pubic symphysis, my little triangle here is in a nice level position, all right? And now we're just going to practice engaging our transverse abdominis. Our transverse abdominis is the deepest layer of our stomach musculature. It is the only one that has attachments onto our spine through the fascia that is back in our lumbar area. So it really helps create like a corset that's going to help stabilize our spine. And this is going to be really helpful for you as you start to build your strength back. So we're going to come back to our breathing with a nice deep breath in. My diaphragm and my pelvic floor drop down. And then as I exhale, I'm going to imagine lifting up through my pelvic floor and engaging that deepest of my abdominal muscles. You may find that your stomach kind of drops a little bit as you do that. I don't want this to be like a sucking in movement, okay? So nice deep breath in. You're going to see my belly kind of expand as all that air goes through my rib cage and down towards my stomach. And then as I exhale, again, I'm knitting that rib cage together. I'm finding that deep engagement of my abdominals here. You take your fingers and you go about 2 fingers down and in from those pelvic bones right here. You can feel that tightening under your fingertips. And again, we're going to pair this with like a really gentle lift of our pelvic floor, not a squeeze, but just like a really gentle lift as we find that engagement. And if you're having difficulty with this, I would really encourage you to just stop here in this video and spend some time with this, okay? Some cues that work for people sometimes are just to say the word ha. And if you kind of forcefully say the word ha, you might feel those muscles contracting underneath your fingertips. For some people, imagining like what you would do if somebody was about to kind of poke you in the stomach, not really punch you hard, but just like a little poke in the stomach, how you would kind of brace for that. Another cue that I like is imagine when a pebble drops in water and it kind of drops down, but then those ripples spread out. That's basically what's happening to the fibers of that muscle right there. If you feel like you have a good handle on how to engage that transverse, then we're going to move on and we're going to add in some heel slides, okay? So once we figured out how to keep our lumbar spine stable and our pelvis stable, we want to try to do that through some movements. So again, I'm kind of rocking a couple times. I'm going to find my pelvic neutral because I think I arched out of it a little bit. And now I'm going to engage, again, that transverse. As I exhale, I'm going to slide my foot down. Oh, I'm scooching down here. So once you feel like you have a good handle on how to engage that transverse abdominis, now we're going to add in some movement to it, okay? Our goal is to keep the stability through our pelvis and through our lumbar spine, and then to be able to add in arm and leg movements through that. So I'm going to take a nice deep breath in. As I exhale, I'm going to lift up that pelvic floor. I'm going to engage that transverse abdominis, and I'm just going to slide one heel down until my leg is straight. And then I'm going to inhale, and I'm going to slide that heel back up. And then I'm going to exhale, slide that heel back down. Again, engaging that transverse abdominis at my pelvic floor. And then inhale and slide that heel back up. If that pace is too fast for you, you can also try taking a nice deep breath in. You can exhale to slide your heel down. Take another deep breath in. Trying not to forget about sending air into all sides of your rib cage, and then exhale and slide that heel back up. Whatever breath pattern feels best for you. If you feel that as that heel goes away from you that your back is arching and that your back is flattening as you pull that knee in, you know that you've lost that stability of your pelvic girdle, and we want to come back, kind of find that weight in our tailbone, find that neutral position of our pelvis, and try to keep that pelvis really still. So it's just the leg moving without any involvement from our pelvis up, like so. Once you feel like you have a good handle on that, you can do maybe 5 to 10 on each leg, or if you prefer, you can alternate legs. And once that's feeling comfortable to you, we're going to move on to some arm movements. Again, if you are pretty soon out of your surgery, you want to be really mindful of how far over your head you're taking your arms, okay? You never want to move into a point of pain or any feeling of like tearing or ripping of that scar tissue by any means. So take these movements slow and stay in ranges that potentially feel slightly uncomfortable, but definitely not painful at all. And we're going to start with just some easy shoulder blade movements. So again, I'm in this hook lying position on my back, and I'm going to take my shoulders and just kind of gently pull them up towards my ears, and then take those fingertips and try to pull them down towards my heels. And I don't want to overdo this motion a ton. I'm just reminding my body that my shoulder blades are part of the movement of my arms, okay? Not all of the motion of my arms comes from right here. Some of it comes from the movement of my shoulder blades as well. So I'm just going to go up through this elevation and this depression a couple times, and then I'm going to find what feels like a nice neutral position. And then I'm going to bring my arms up overhead, okay? If this is not comfortable for you yet, you can skip this step. If you feel comfortable here, what I want you to notice is the width between your hands right now, okay? And you're going to try to make your hands just slightly longer by sliding those shoulder blades away from your spine. They're going to kind of wrap around my rib cage, and then I'm going to pull them back down towards my mat. So this is my protraction and my retraction. And what you'll feel, and I want you to let this movement happen, is as you protract or make those arms longer, you'll feel that breastbone drop down in space a little bit, okay? So we're creating just a little bit of a flexion movement through our thoracic spine, and that should feel really nice. And then we're going to retract those shoulder blades and feel just a slight little bit of extension through our thoracic spine. And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep the space between my hands consistent. I don't want my hands to come in as I make those arms longer. If I do that, then we're going to overwork those chest muscles, and we really want to try to keep the chest muscles out of this. We're using this muscle right here that kind of wraps around your shoulder blade to create this motion. And then again, I'm going to move through this range that I have here in my shoulder blades until I find a nice neutral position. And then we're going to start scissoring our hands. So as you exhale, those arms are going to come away from each other. One arm is going towards your hip, the other arm is going overhead, again, in a range that feels comfortable, okay? This is another instance of a move that you want to start really small and slow. As your body warms up, as you get blood flow and joint fluid to the area, you'll find that you can move a little further. but I don't want you pushing into pain or past the, like what we call the tissue stretch that you feel. Kind of go right up to the point where you feel those tissues stretching and then back out of that space. And ideally with each movement, you'll find that you can go a little further and a little further. And again, we're going to still focus on our breath here. So we're going to inhale as our arms come together and exhale as they go away from each other. Also kind of finding that nice motion of our shoulder blades. So as my hands come closer together towards the ceiling, I'm reaching a little bit with those shoulder blades and getting that nice protraction of my shoulders as well. And then the last thing in this position we're going to do is we're going to start some snow angels. So again, after mastectomies, we'll find that we kind of end up curling forward this way a lot. We want to gently stretch this tissue out here in front. So we're on our backs with our palms facing up. We're just going to start a really small snow angel. So again, ideally you're doing this on the ground so that there's not this temptation for your arms to kind of hang off the edge of anything. I'm just going to keep my arms in line with my torso here. And again, a motion that you want to stay really small to start. You stop where you feel that tissue restriction or where you start to feel any discomfort. And then just see if with each repetition you can go just slightly further. As you go through this range too, you may find that rolling those arm bones in their socket helps you get through more range. So play around with that a little bit. If you turn your palms maybe so that your thumbs are up, does that help you get through any sticky points in that motion? Or maybe you start with your palms facing down towards your feet and then let them rotate up as you come overhead. Play around with what feels best for you. All right, next thing we're going to do is move into a quadruped position. So I'm on my hands and my knees now. And again, for some people, this may be where you start today and where you stop. You may find that just starting to put some weight through your hands is kind of what you can tolerate today. And if so, that's awesome. If you want to try and challenge yourself, you can try the next couple exercises that I show you. So to start, you want your wrists and your elbows directly under your shoulders. My knees are directly under my hips. And I've got kind of a nice neutral spine position. So I'm strong through my body here. I'm not kind of letting my shoulder blades be lazy and send those towards my spine. And I'm not lazy through my lower back. I've got a nice engagement of, again, those deep abdominal muscles so that I'm in a neutral spine position. And then I'm going to start by just slowly lifting one arm and touching the opposite shoulder. So now we're practicing shifting all of our weight to one side and trying to stay strong through that shoulder girdle. If you find that as you shift your weight to that side that you can't support yourself and your shoulder, again, kind of goes in towards your spine and up towards your neck, then we don't want to do this exercise yet. A nice regression of that would be just some shifts, some weight shifts from side to side. Again, just getting your body used to bearing some of your weight through your arms and your hands again. And then last but not least, from this position, we're going to start to rock ourselves back. So again, this is functionally the same thing as if you were lifting your arm overhead, only you're not having to use so much muscular effort to do so. So this is a great way to start getting some motion back in those shoulders without having to use a lot of muscular effort. And the same rule applies. As you start to go through this motion, if you find that right here you have either a little bit of discomfort or some tissue restriction, that's where you stop. You rock those shoulders back over your wrists and then see if on the next repetition, if maybe you can go just a hair further and then back over your wrists and then another hair further each time, okay? You can also kind of play around with maybe taking your hands a little bit wider than shoulder width apart as you do this. And again, that takes this motion from a motion kind of like this into a motion in the scapular plane here, which is really functional. So I like to do this in both positions with my hands kind of right about shoulder width apart, and then with my hands a little bit turned out and a little bit wider than my shoulders. And again, just slowly increasing the range with each repetition. And that's it for today. Thanks for joining us.